So what's the challenge for whoever the protagonist or main character is going to be? What does that person have to find out? Yes.
To find out who is stealing it and why.
Yes, who is stealing the jewels and why? And like these girls hanging upside down and watching the murder.
When?
When, yes. And how and what's going on. And where, exactly. So what Alfred is doing is setting up the story immediately for you. So he shows you, this takes place in the south of France. Anyone been there? Just, oh, I was there many years ago. Actually, that's in Nice, which is on the Riviera. And these poor, well, they're wealthy, but these wealthy middle-aged women have gone there. The dream of their life is to go to the Riviera. And what happens? Somebody steals their jewels. So it's quite disappointing for them. And so there's a lot of pressure on to find out who this thief is. But before we leave that scene, in between shots of the stealthy gloved hand going into under people's pillows and into their drawers and stuff, what did you see on the roof? Somebody brought it up already.
A cat.
A cat, yes.
A cat.
A cat. Now what Alfred Hitchcock was doing here is he was using something called a metaphor. Have you studied metaphors yet? What's a metaphor?
Metamorphosis?
Oh, not quite metamorphosis, but same root. What's a metaphor? Do you know?
Metaphor means that we changes from one thing to another.
Well, that's close. Somebody changes from one thing to another. It's not quite that, but it means that one thing represents another. So you're using one idea to represent another. That's a metaphor. So in this opening scene, Alfred Hitchcock is cutting between the scenes of the thief and this cat. And he's using the cat as a metaphor for the thief. What do you think a cat and a thief would have in common? Yes?
Might use the cat to cover up his noise and when the other people.
Well, does a cat make much noise when it moves? No. So he's very stealthy. So he's being like a thief, right? A cat moves like a thief. Well, like a good thief, not a clumsy one. Very yes.
Oh, you could train cats to go and take on people's stuff.
Yeah, that would be it. That you could, I suppose, train a cat. I think what he's doing is just showing you this cat because there is an expression called cat burglar. Yeah. So because a burglar, yes. What were you going to say?
Oh, I think the burglar was using the cat because if the woman calls the police and the police checks for any fingerprints and they know it and they check and they said it was a cat, then the thief would be safe.
Well, there's definitely a cat involved, and the cat is associated with the thief. And so you're right, there is kind of a clue in the cat, but I won't tell you till later on what that is. So just keep that scene in mind. You'll see that he started his story off right away, got you into the action. You know what the story's going to be about right away. It's your classic mystery beginning. And he used a metaphor of a cat for a thief. Now, back to something else we've talked about already, your main character or protagonist. And maybe you recognize this young woman, some of you if you read mystery stories, a blonde young woman who's a detective. Do you ever? Yes, that's Nancy Drew. The way she looks now, when I was reading Nancy Drew, she looked different. She would be about, 80 years old or so if she aged with her books, but she remains perpetually youthful, so she is always young and blonde, but her hairdo and her clothes change. Yes?
I realized this. That's not actually Nancy Drew. That's someone else putting her picture on someone else.
Yes, the wonders of Photoshop. It's true. I use the wonders of Photoshop to create this. She's actually not at another roller coaster at the PNE watching the murder, but I wanted to put her in the setting of the roller coaster because it's our theme. So what I want to talk about though is your main character or protagonist. Should he or she be perfect? And the reason I thought of Nancy Drew was that when I was reading all those dozens of Nancy Drews many years ago when I was your age, back in the Pleistocene era when I was your age, I noticed something about Nancy Drew, which was this. She never made mistakes. At least the ones I read. She never lost her temper. She never did anything clumsy. She was just about perfect. And in fact, when Nancy Drew was created, which was in 1930, which is a long time ago, that wasn't too long after that was only about 30 years after the most famous detective of all was created. And you know what his name was? Sherlock Holmes. And he too was just about perfect. Very interesting to read his stories. But he could look at say your shoes, and if he saw mud on the sole of your shoe, he could figure out, from that, he could figure out who you were, who your uncle was, where you came from, everything you'd done in your life. The guy was like almost a superhero because he could figure out everything. So I started, yes, what were you going to say?
When he was young, he always got killed.
When he was,
I read the new books about him, he always got killed.
oh, yeah, well he does even in the originals. He supposedly gets killed once by fighting with this evil guy named Moriarty, and they fall off a cliff. And then the author of Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, did that because he was tired of writing Sherlock Holmes stories. So he had them fall off a cliff and, so he thought, die, but his readers were so angry that he had to figure out a way for them miraculously to climb back up again. So anyway, he was pretty amazing, if somewhat unlikely. But what's happened with mystery stories is they started out with Sherlock, who was just about perfect, and then over the years, detectives became less than perfect. If any of you grown-ups here read adult detective books, nowadays detectives have all kinds of problems. They're tormented, they have terrible love lives, everything goes wrong for them. So it really has changed. Now adult detectives are a lot less than perfect, and the same thing has happened with detectives in kids' books. Nancy Drew may be perfect, certainly the ones I read, but nowadays, if you're writing a book, like my main characters always have problems because writers nowadays try to give our characters believable life stories. So with Joe, he's a less than perfect student, right? He's stuck in Vancouver doing a math course when he wants to be out having a vacation. And the other detective I'm going to talk to you about, my detective Dinah Galloway, is certainly less than perfect. She's kind of blunt, she is often rude because she doesn't think before she speaks. She's impulsive. So these people created nowadays in stories are less than perfect. If you were going to create a story, you writers here, who could you base your main character on to make that person believable? Someone you know very well. Who could you base it on? Yes?
Yourself.
Yourself, that's what I was going to suggest. Yeah, because you know yourself pretty well. And so you can put all your flaws and your good points in, all your interests, if you like hockey or knitting or whatever. And the nice thing is, if you base it on yourself, then you won't offend your friends and family by basing it on them because they'll be annoyed at you. So if you use yourself as the main character, you won't offend anyone. So character, remember, is more interesting if they are less than perfect.